It wasn't a phone call. It wasn't a headline. It was a government letter. One line buried in black and white legal boilerplate, and that was it. Yara's green card had been denied. Not paused. Not delayed, denied. And the judge had ordered her to leave the United States within days. There were cameras in the room when she read it. Of course, there were. This was Yara, reality TV. Royalty. Her love story had been binge-watched, dissected, hashtagged, and monetized. She gave birth, fought, forgave, moved, and sobbed on cue in front of millions. She had made it, TLC, fame, fashion brand, a seemingly solid marriage, a baby. She had leveraged her reality TV edit into an actual life. Until that quiet envelope cracked it open. At first, there was confusion. A production assistant slid her the document mid-filming. She glanced at it, laughed nervously. Oh wow. Is this one of their dramatic setups, but the look on the PA's face? Pale, stiff, not a hint of drama queen energy made her heart sink. She stepped off set, open to the second page and read the words again. Denied. Voluntary departure order issued. A subject must leave country within days or face mandatory removal proceedings. That's when the lights felt too bright. She blinked at it hard, as if the right pair of blinks would reboot the nightmare. People on set kept shooting. The crew kept holding boom mics. Somewhere a camera was still rolling, not for an episode, not for an emotional moment, but for what had just become a raw, unscripted unraveling in real time. She called her lawyer immediately. No answer. She called Joy. He was still offshore in the middle of a work trip, unreachable outside of slow Wi-Fi and patchy cell towers. A producer leaned in. Hey, are you okay? You're visibly shaking. Just a heads up, we're still live on audio. She was whispering, but someone else nearby muttered on mic. This is gold. It hit like static in her ears. The kind of sentence you don't hear until long after it's said, this is gold. Like heartbreak was a plotline. Like the risk of deportation was the story beat TLC had been waiting for. Yara stood still, her body frozen, but her brain racing. Maybe it's a paperwork issue, a typo in the system. USCIS makes mistakes all the time, right? Maybe if her lawyer could get on the phone with someone tomorrow, she could undo this. She couldn't even pronounce the form code at the top of the letter, let alone understand it. She knew one thing. She wasn't acting. A camera zeroed in on her hands as she held the letter. Makeup they'd powdered into her palms earlier now smudged faintly across the page. A producer walked over with a mic check, pretending she couldn't see what was happening. Behind the scenes, wires stayed hot. iCloud storage overflowed. The mic packs had battery, but Yara's sense of safety had died in that exact moment because what fans couldn't see was this. All of it was real. She wasn't crying for the show. She was crying for her life, but the plot twist wasn't in the script because there was never a script to begin with, just a life unraveling with a camera in its face. The denial wasn't a storyline. It wasn't a misunderstanding cued for episode. It was real immigration law, and the implications were already curling around everything. Her marriage, her family, her record, her child. And none of that was TV safe. There were no instructions. No guidebooks for reality stars whose entire on-screen identity had been transformed into legal evidence. Suddenly, the lines weren't blurred between entertainment and real life. They had collapsed. When the cameras turned to Yara, asking her to describe what she felt on mic, she couldn't speak. She didn't know if she was Supposed to cry harder or lawyer up. And that's where her story fractures. She thought she knew what reality TV took. She had no idea what it could cost. Because here's the real twist. No one told her. When your whole life becomes content, someone's always editing you. Legally, emotionally, and professionally. The only question is to whose benefit? That answer was coming. But first, she had days. The next blow didn't come from a judge or a journalist. It came from her lawyer's voice. Quiet, tired, almost afraid to say the words out loud. They're using the show against you. Yara didn't get it. At first. You mean like our relationship timeline? Rena, her immigration attorney, clarified. No, I mean your actual footage. TLC episodes. Transcripts, confessionals, they're quoting them verbatim. It wasn't just about paperwork gaps. Anymore. This wasn't a simple technical denial. The Department of Homeland Security was treating the edits of her on-screen life the way a court might treat sworn testimony. Her crying about missing her family in Ukraine. The time she told Joy she didn't feel at home in America. The blurry late-night fight from season 2 where she threatened to take the baby and leave. Someone had watched those segments, written them down, and filed them as red flags. This wasn't speculation. This was in black and white. Page 7 of the official review file. Subject expresses ongoing dissatisfaction with geographic placement and marital circumstances. Page. Episodes aired on the TLC network show repeated interpersonal disputes. It wasn't just evidence. It was interpreted emotion. They weren't parsing her character. They were dissecting her intent to live in this country based on what producers edited to boost weekly ratings. She sat there listening in complete silence while Rena read a list of timestamps from specific episodes that immigration officers were concerned about her missing home too much. Her saying she wasn't sure she and Joy were in sync anymore. Even her sarcastic jokes. In a real marriage, it's called stress. On TV, it looked like set up for separation. Yara blinked. Her body flooded with that sick, dizzying heat again. You think you're prepared when you sign papers? When you're told that reality television isn't real anyway, that scenes are shaped for drama. That confessionals aren't binding until they are. Producers used to nudge them before filming. If they weren't fighting enough, someone would say, hey, how about we revisit last night's conversation, but dig into the real feelings. They'd reshoot entire arguments under better lighting. That was the job. Get raw. Get real. Keep it interesting. But now, all that enhanced reality was being dragged into a federal process that didn't care about emotional arcs or audience retention. USCIS wasn't watching it as fans. They were watching it as investigators. How can you explain that your worst moment from years ago was relit, re-recorded, and recut for more dramatic pacing? How do you say we weren't breaking up? We were filming a breakup that editors planned in June. The red light blinking on the camera, that wasn't for fans. It was for the federal government. Joy was furious. He stormed out of their next lawyer meeting, saying, are we being deported because we were too entertaining? But humor didn't help anymore. She felt it in her stomach. The truth almost no one talks about. Fame doesn't just collect receipts, it creates them. Every meltdown, every onk cry, every slow zoom for suspense had become part of a case file. And Yara wasn't a main character anymore. She was a suspect. The government was one courtroom. The internet became the second and way harsher. Within hours of the Deportation letter surfacing online, Yara's name exploded across tabloids. Fan pages, subreddits, TikToks, and conspiracy meme accounts. The story spread faster than wildfire because it had the two things the internet feast on, drama and immigration. Low budget. Gossip blogs ran headlines like Yara exposed green card marriage scam. A fan-run Twitter account claimed exclusive sources said Joy had been preparing for a solo spin-off for months. Reddit it did what Reddit always does. Build screenshots, out of context, quotes, and produce her commentary into entire legal theories. One thread swore the denial had been part of a 3-season setup. Another accused her of faking pregnancy photos. Someone posted her old IG live where she mentioned taking Ma home to Ukraine for a while. Captioned, "Sound like permanent plans to you?" YouTube creators dropped minute reaction videos with titles like Day Fiancé. Fraud. Yara caught on tape. Each one racked up hundreds of thousands of views. Her accent got mocked. Her parenting got judged. Her relationship dissected like a crime scene. Yara went silent completely. No Instagram posts, no stories, no replies. For someone who had been online almost daily since, it felt like eraser. But behind that silence was panic. Her attorney had begged her to stay quiet. Anything you post becomes context, she warned. Even a motivational quote can be twisted. But staying quiet didn't stop the speculation. It supercharged it. Influencer gossip pages started spinning. Narratives. Yara gone into hiding. Guilty much? Videos resurfaced of her reacting harshly in confessionals. Edited for drama, but now labeled emotional instability. Commenters flooded her old post with fire and snake emojis. Deport her. She used Joy. America isn't a backup plan. Joy tried to post a short message saying, "Our family is going through something private. Please respect us." It did the opposite. His replies filled with, "So she is guilty then? Why you lying for her?" The quiet turned up the volume. All while TLC still filming, still scheduling episodes, still uploading clips with romantic piano music. Yara smiling in thumbnails. No mention of her legal chaos. Her pain was trending and the network was cashing in. She stayed offline, but at night she'd still look. One scroll through her mentions took her down a rabbit hole she couldn't unsee. A fan account she followed for years was now tweeting theories that she had been planning exit PR for months. Even her wedding photos were being called strategically posed. And through all this noise, screenshots, subtitles, edits, guesses, her daughter slept in the next room. Crib, bunny toy, lavender nightlight. Yara sat on the floor. Outside Mila's door, arms wrapped around her legs, sobbing into the sweatshirt Papa Joy gifted her last Christmas. The soundproof walls couldn't hide what was happening. Not from the cameras once. And not from her anymore. She gave them her love story. Now, they were selling her destruction in high definition. And no one, not even Joy or her lawyer, knew how far this would go, because once your life becomes interactive content, you don't control the pause button. The viewers do. Joy came home ready to fight. He dropped everything the moment he got the call. Left the rig, booked an emergency flight, powered through jet lag. He walked through the door expecting crisis mode. But nothing could have prepared him for how hollow the house already felt. Yara wasn't crying. That would have been easier. She was numb, sitting on the floor, laptop open. The denial letter and printed emails spread around her like broken glass. He said what any husband would say. "We'll fix this. The government can't take her away from me. But Yara had already learned something Joy hadn't. The contract they signed with TLC, it was airtight. They didn't just sign up to be filmed. They signed away control of storyline, of scenes, of footage, of context. TLC owned every second, every heated conversation, every voice-cracked argument about whether Joy was spending too much time out drinking instead of home with their baby. Every sarcastic comment that was cut into an Act 1. Every apology that was shortened or skipped, all of it legally theirs, which means it was never truly hers to protect. Her lawyer laid it out flat. TLC doesn't have to cooperate. They're not obligated to explain the editing. They're not legally responsible for the consequences. Their only concern is whether they're in breach of entertainment contracts, not immigration law, not emotional fallout, not custody. Because yes, now custody was on the table once you're flagged for deportation under suspected fraud. It doesn't just end with you. The system starts pulling at every thread. Is the child primarily cared for by the non-citizen parent? Where is the marital home actually based? Do the couple share finances, time zones, holidays? Suddenly, the show footage was being analyzed through a different lens. The clips where Yara traveled without Joy cited the tearful moment she said she'd rather be raising her baby in Ukraine than alone in the US. Cited Joy's bachelor party flashbacks, used as evidence of alleged marital imbalance. She couldn't make this up. And online, the silence only grew louder. She stopped posting. She didn't want to give USCIS another clip of her fumbling through a language barrier under stress. But the trolls didn't care. Pauses became proof. Silence became sabotage. It got worse. The legal file itself now included screenshots of Reddit threads. Yes, actual user comments filed in a legal proceeding. User a hot mama Tammy states she believes Yara is faking emotional distress for attention, followed by see YouTube compilation of public outbursts. Ins timestamp. Her real marriage had been overwritten by edited television and internet commentary, she cried to her lawyer. But none of it's complete. None of the context is real. Her lawyer didn't flinch. It doesn't have to be, she said. It just has to raise doubt. And you're fighting a system that sees edited footage as something more reliable than your words under oath. No one was clarifying her story. They were rewriting it. The show never said goodbye because they weren't filming a love story anymore. They were filming a downfall and she was still under contract. Before the cameras showed up, Yara and Joy had problems like every other couple, but they were theirs. Fights ended in private. Affection didn't need a reshoot. Tears were messy, not directional. And silence. Silence was a pause, not an edit point that ended the day their lives got mic'd. Producers didn't tell them to fake anything. They didn't have to. They just knew how to spin every emotion louder when Joy shrugged off a serious talk. Say it again, but this time a little more tension. When Yara got tearful. Hold that moment. Let's get a close-up. They started scripting themselves without even noticing. Joyce stopped answering questions with honesty. He answered them how viewers expected the Louisiana bad boy to respond. Detached, sarcastic, charming, but infuriating. And Yara leaned harder into the persona that paid. Dramatic, no filter, unpredictable. They were communicating through performance, not to each other, to the audience. And the worst part, the audience believed it. Joy walking out mid-argument with no context became gaslighting. Yara crying because she felt isolated became manipulation. Every swipe of mascara followed by a tear was seen as staged. Viewers couldn't imagine that sometimes you cry and check if your makeup held up because you're on national television. At home, the energy shifted. Even when the cameras weren't there, they still felt watched. Storylines didn't live on production schedules anymore. They seeped into everyday life. A real disagreement about parenting would spiral out of control because both of them subconsciously knew how to pitch a meltdown. Even their reconciliations felt blogged like a scene. Hug signed off with side glances, kisses that stopped just short of sincerity. And then came the reshoots. One fight, a quiet one about house chores, didn't have enough tension. So, a producer pulled Joy aside and asked, would it be natural if you brought up her overspending right here? The viewers need to feel the stakes. Joy said, sure. Yara resisted. Then, the crew delayed lunch. Told them they'd wrap if this scene lands emotionally. And somehow, hours later, Yara was sobbing in a bedroom while Joy reenacted the same line. Louder, colder, emptier. Fast. Forward to now. And that very scene is being referenced in Reddit posts as proof of her emotional imbalance. That's how fast love became content. And now even their sex life was being questioned. Online. Fans backward analyzed episodes to see when the chemistry died. The same early moments where Joy kissed her forehead were now labeled performative affection. They weren't a couple anymore. They were suspects in the trial of public opinion. They used to comfort in private. Now they broke down in front of crew. Their wedding photo hung above the TV. Joy passed by it one night, stared at it too long, and muttered, are we even the same people anymore? Yara didn't answer. She didn't know. What started as a show about love slowly became surveillance footage of a life falling apart, and nobody watching could tell the difference, not even them. The envelope was thin. That's how she knew it was bad. Real approvals come with weight. Paperwork, instructions, next steps. What Yara held in her hand felt weightless until she opened it and the bottom dropped out. Final denial. Section C, removal required within days. No appeal permitted. Independent filing necessary to re-enter the country. No errors, no mercy, no loophole, just a deadline. She didn't cry. Not at first. Not even when she reread the line that legally categorized her marriage as primarily for immigration benefits. She stared at the timestamp and date in the upper right corner. Her daughter had been napping when the clock officially started ticking down. Joy wasn't even in the country when it arrived. She didn't wait. Within hours, she was in survival mode. Not strategic, not logical, but primal. Notebooks, passports, toddler socks tossed into suitcases that didn't match. Half-full bags sitting by the door like they were trying to leave without her. She packed even what she didn't need. Meal a stuffed bunny, redundant charger cables, baby spoons, random hard copies of tax forms. Everything became tokens of proof. Memories in the form of objects. She thought, if I keep it, maybe I can come back to it. But beneath all of it was inevitable chaos because it wasn't just leaving. It was unraveling her life without hurting her child. Mila was small but not clueless. Are we going to visit Baba? Yara lied. Yeah, baby, just for a little bit. She didn't say the part where she might never come back. Joy returned the next day, empty-eyed and wide awake the entire flight home. The second he walked in. Why didn't they notify us sooner? What about deferred departure? There has to be a backup plan. Yara cut him off. There is no plan. We signed a decade of our life to a production company and didn't realize those episodes would be used in federal court. He paced the living room in circles. Useless, angry, then quiet, then angry again. She pointed to the envelope pinned to the fridge with a Mozart magnet. It's real, Joy. We're out. Day 1 was denial. Day 2 was numbing panic. By day 5, they were hearing from reporters. By day 6, Twitter had gotten hold of the court filing. TMZ printed it verbatim. Yara Z. ordered to leave us over alleged marriage fraud tied to day fiancé footage. TLC declines comment. On day 9, TLC called directly. Not legal, not PR, straight from the production team they'd known since season. Would you be willing to let us film the final departure? It could give viewers closure. Closure. The word echoed like a threat. Yara didn't even hesitate. No. That word, the first true boundary she'd set in years, felt like holding a door shut during a storm. They tried again. Through Joy, then gently through Mila's rep. Yes, her daughter had a media representative because of her screen time contract, but Yara held the line. They wouldn't film the goodbye. Not for the storyline, not for the trailer, not for sympathy views, not for anything. This scene belonged to her. The house felt haunted by itself. Framed stills from past seasons were already wrapped in bubble plastic. Couches showed indentations where camera rigs used to sit. The walls echoed in a way they hadn't in years. Stripped down and emotionless. Like the show had taken all the color with it. They canceled the utilities, closed out Joy's side business, and kept brushing off. Paparazzi parked outside. Yes, in New Orleans. She expected LA to act like this. Not here. Day was the first time she cried in front of Ma. She tried to hold it together, but kids know. Mila asked if her Paw Patrol toys were going in their forever house or travel bag. That cracked something open. Yara excused herself, closed the bathroom door, turned on the water, and crumbled. She sat on the cold tile, and whispered again and again, we were real. We were real. We were real. By day, Joy had stopped fighting the system and started fighting to give her something soft to land on. He booked flight logistics, bought Mila a new coat for the colder Ukrainian air, arranged a private escort to avoid media at the airport. TLC stopped contacting her, but didn't stop talking about her. Producers leaked to small outlets that Yara's team declined further filming despite generous support offered for relocation, which was absolute fiction, but it was on record. Forever. By day, former cast members started texting, some offering prayers. Most probing for gossip, and someone she had trusted on a previous season, reposted a fan conspiracy tick. Talk suggesting Joy had found someone new in Vegas only weeks earlier. It exploded. Yara didn't even watch it. There was no time left. Day came. Fast. She dressed intentionally that morning, not fashionably, meaningfully. Wore the same pair of boots from her original arrival at the U.S. airport. The same earring she wore in an early confessional when she said, I'm scared, but I love him and I'm going to try. Joy drove them to the terminal. Mila asked if this was a vacation. Yara kept saying, yes, baby. Yes. Cameras were already there. Some independent vloggers. Some masked as rid share. Passengers with phones angled through cracked windows. She moved fast and kept her head down. Inside, TSA agents whispered. They tried to be discreet. One even mouthed sorry when he stamped her passport, but everything felt exposed. Final boarding was called. She crushed Mila to her chest and looked one last time at Joy. No words could survive the weight in the air between them. They kissed like it was the last time because it was for now, maybe forever. No drama. No crescendo music, just emptiness and security telling Yara it was time. She walked away without turning around again. Joy stayed frozen, staring at the slope of her shoulders as she disappeared into the gate. Outside, TMZ posted an article with footage from the airport not minutes later. Title: Yara breaks down at departure. Shock end to TLC love story. And yes, someone had already cut it into a dramatic TikTok montage with soft piano music and episode flashbacks. She flew out alone. But her breakdown stayed behind, packaged, edited, and scheduled to air next season. America closed its gate behind her, and in doing so made her pain profitable one last time. Kiev didn't greet her with champagne or headlines. It greeted her with cold air, cracked sidewalks, and a quiet apartment stacked with second-hand furniture. There was no crew waiting at arrivals, no mic packs, no producers. For the first time in years, no one was documenting her face for reaction shots. Mila adjusted faster than expected. Kids do a new bedtime blanket. Her dad's voice on speaker when the time zones aligned. Peanut butter smuggled in a suitcase. Yara struggled more. The stillness felt fake at first. Without the hum of cameras or the mental tally of catchphrases, she had to relearn how to exist without performance. She didn't post. Weeks passed. Then months. She deleted the TLC producers from her contacts, blocked gossip bloggers, slept weird hours, and cooked the same 2 meals on repeat. Sometimes she'd catch herself narrating her own day in her head like someone might be listening. No one was. Freedom didn't come as a rush. It came as boredom, stillness, blank walls, a slow, quiet burning away of everything cheap and edited. And once the lightness started peeking through that ceiling, it didn't stop. She launched a new business. Nothing flashy. A boutique built from her tiny kitchen table featuring handmade apparel sourced from Ukrainian women struggling through war and relocation. She called it Mila and Me. No influencers, no celebrity cosigns, just fair pricing and quiet strength. And word got out because her story had left a mark. Displaced mothers reached out. So did DV advocates, young, hopeful entrepreneurs, and immigrants who had once risked visibility for a better shot. They didn't want drama. They wanted her real voice. And after everything she'd lost, Yara was ready to own that. She started journaling again. Not brand captions or merch taglines. Truth. The kind you scribble down at AM. Not sure if it's for yourself or for someday. It felt raw. Then it started to feel like recovery. Then one email changed everything. TLC wanted to do a redemption project. Of course they did. Our audience still cares. It began. We'd be open to giving you final creative approval. The offer sounded reasonable, empowering, but Yara had learned that language before. Artistic control wasn't shorthand for protection. It was often the bait between edits. She hovered over the delete button, then stopped. Maybe this time it didn't have to be exploitation. Maybe this time she wasn't vulnerable. She was in charge. They didn't get her breakdown shot, but maybe she could choose what they saw now. So, she said yes under strict terms. No reenactments. No emotion-pumping music, no manufactured conflict with Joy, and final veto over anything attached to her name. It aired as a digital exclusive. Yara, her version. Gone was the old intro music. Gone were the soundbite confessionals. In their place, simple wide shots of Kiev in winter. Yara walking hand in hand with Ma. Scenes of her packing sorted donations, interviews not styled to perfection, but framed with natural light and emotional clarity. And it trended not because of drama, because of recognition. People saw themselves. People saw the absurdity of how entertainment had turned legal. An expose of her experience appeared 2 weeks later in a national magazine. Public figures reposted it not for clout but for credibility. Comments under the teaser flooded with things like, they humiliated her for seasons. Now they want her to fix their image. Apologies won't cover this. And more bluntly, we watched a woman get deported in real time and thought it was entertainment. TLC's social pages turned comment sections off that week. They claimed global engagement dictated moderation, but no one bought the excuse. Yara didn't gloat. She didn't respond, quote, tweet, or throw shade. She gave her statement in silence and let their shame trend on its own. Joy reached out again. Not for reconciliation, not for closure, just to say he saw the video, that Mila looked bigger, that he was proud of what her mother had survived. He flew in that spring. No camera crew, no tabloid bribes, just a man visiting his kid and accepting that the woman he once married didn't need him to narrate her story anymore. Mila screamed, "Daddy," in 2 languages when he stepped out of customs. Yara smiled, watching it unfold. From tea away. There was no makeup team, no cue for emotion. No second take, just a real child who never stopped loving both her parents. Even after the show stopped airing them, they sat on the same park bench where Yara took Mela for walks each morning. Joy didn't ask for forgiveness. Yara didn't ask for closure. They shared sunflower seeds, laughed about old crew inside jokes, and cried gently over what could have been without making it anyone else's property. She still had bad days. There were still immigration appeals, fear around travel, the occasional cruel DM. But there were also steady sales, real customers, a photo taped to her fridge. That Mila drew, 3 stick figures holding hands. She used to think the end of her American dream was the end of everything. But it turned out to be the beginning of something more valuable than press coverage, her own identity. And she didn't owe anyone a storyline to earn it back. She signed on to share her love story. No one warned her it would end with immigration court transcripts and a deleted storyline. And this time, the only one in the director's chair is her.